Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, is a U.S.-funded but independent news organization which is trying to get its broadcasts deeper and deeper into Russian territory and to outwit and outrun the Russian censors with Russian-language web articles. Patrick Boehler is head of digital strategy for the organization, which is commonly known as RFE-RL. Welcome to the program, Patrick.
Thank you for having me, Katie.
So I remember as a kid, I was growing up in Berlin, in East Germany, as it was then. My dad was in the Air Force, and I remember Radio Free Europe being a real force in the Cold War. And it sounds like it's needed now more than ever. What does it actually do?
Radio Free Europe is a public service media organization. So what it does is providing information that people in the countries that we operate in wouldn't otherwise get in their media environment. So if you look at Russia, if you look at Belarus, our mission is to provide that the information that these governments are trying to hide from these people, and trying to also enable a public debate within these countries so that there can be discussions about policy, that there can be discussions about what is happening right now, and that is more than ever important in a state of war.
And do you have any idea what kind of audience numbers you have within Russia?
I mean, we've had significant increases in audience numbers at the beginning of the war. Russia has stepped in quite quickly and started to block our websites. And then, of course, they also blocked some social media platforms.
And you do broadcast in other languages other than Russian, is that right?
That's right. So we broadcast in Russian, in total in 26 languages. That includes Russian, Chechen, Tatar, Belarusian, and of course Ukrainian.
So how are you trying to get the broadcast to more Russians and further inside the country? Is this clandestine dealings with cutting-edge technology, or what are your tactics, if you can say?
In part, we can still publish the way we have in the past. Because we have been doing, because we were anticipating this, and we've done a lot of public service messaging. Here is how to download a VPN. Here is how to circumvent censorship that the Russian authorities have imposed, so that you can continue to access not only our news broadcasts, our social media accounts, and our websites, but so that you can continue the open internet. So we've been doing that, and we've seen significant increase in the use of, say, VPNs, which are a tool to kind of tunnel through past the censors to the open internet in Russia. For instance, in app stores, if you look at mobile phone app stores, those are the top downloads across Russia right now. So that, in essence, allows people to access the open internet. And then some platforms are still accessible. The Russian authorities have not blocked them. YouTube still is. They're trying to disrupt our publishing, but we've been able to keep that going. Of course, podcast aggregators are still accessible. And Telegram has become, as a messaging service, a messaging app, has really gained in popularity. So we have seen a very steep rise in subscribers in our Telegram channels.
And Patrick, you must have a pretty good sense of the kinds of articles and broadcasts that are the most popular. What is the information that people within Russia seem to be craving?
Right now, what they're most interested in, what we're seeing, is our reports about soldiers in Ukraine that may be prisoners of war, fallen soldiers, or any kind of other information about these soldiers, because we're seeing that the Russian state-controlled media, they're not talking about these soldiers, fate. We do. So what we have journalists across Ukraine, and when they manage to do reporting about about the fate of soldiers, we can connect the dots, and then because we then do reporting, we can do reporting about their families in Siberia or in the Caucasus, and that gives us a picture of who these soldiers are that the Russian government has sent to fight there. We also those are by far the most read stories.
It seems like it's almost like a community bulletin board in a way. You're describing naming individual soldiers. Is the form just simply a list of fallen or injured soldiers, or do you try to connect them with their actual families?
We do reporting around these stories, and then there is, of course, we don't always name them to also, we have some editorial guidelines in terms of, because we want to protect the identity of prisoners of war.
Oh, I see.
But we do reporting that then gives people insights into how is their community affected by the war. Are the soldiers from their part of the country being sent to fight in Ukraine? All that information isn't necessarily apparent in Russian media. Another element that is of widespread interest is the economic fallout of the war. How is this going to affect local economies, the sanctions, and those aspects as well?
It's so interesting thinking about this project of yours and wondering how it connects and how successfully it can connect with the Russian public, because I'm thinking about an interview I read earlier this week with a Russian sociologist, Greg Yudin. It was in New York Magazine, and he was talking about why regular Russian folks are in so much denial about the war in Ukraine. And according to this sociologist, he says Russians assume their government is lying to them, and then they assume everyone's lying to them, and therefore, even just looking at a barbaric image from a destroyed Ukrainian city, those must be lies as well. And there's sort of a incentive to be depoliticized, like, what's the point of caring? And I'm wondering if you encounter that in your work, is there a sense that amongst the Russians who hear your broadcast and read your publications, might they just consider that it's further propaganda and therefore something to tune out?
Of course, I think that it's a great point, and that is something that we're always thinking about. I think one of the elements, one of the things that we can do to address this is to really be very transparent with our methods and reporting, and really show that we are trying to really inform people. So in terms of what we do, we would, sometimes we'll make a mistake. We run corrections. We really try to show that we have very sound editorial standards. The other element, the other approach that we take is we do, when we do our reporting, that is, it's not abstract high diplomacy. It is really about how does this affect your community, your lives, in a very direct way, and really no one else does that, and so it's not a kind of us versus them. It is really, this is about how does all of this is happening, is affecting you, the reader, say in Siberia, and so, and that resonates on another level because no one else does that.
How important, Patrick, is this work? You're fighting for hearts and minds here, getting the Russians to question official sources. What is the goal of your work?
I think the ultimate goal is to make sure people are informed so that they can make up their own opinions about policy, about their lives, about government, and have an informed debate, at least when that's possible, within their social circles. That's the goal of every journalist, right? We try to really inform people so that they have the tools to the information they need to make decisions about their lives.
Do you have any way to any metrics for how successful you are? Like, do you feel like you are making a connection? Like, is there anything that you hear just anecdotally from people who are listening to your broadcasts and reading your material?
Yes. So we do get we have people reaching out to us, and that is really something that is really moving often. So just I think last week we had someone sent us a photo of in an elevator in Moscow. People were hanging QR codes of links to our sites. Of course, our sites are blocked, so we have put in place some technology to make it much harder for the Russian authorities to block our sites, and people appear to have just been starting to distribute those QR codes so that others can also access that information. But really, it's been a great moment because people are thinking about censorship, and they're thinking about how to overcome restrictions on the free debate. I've worked in China about 5 years ago, and when China was gradually tightening its online censorship and reducing the space for online debate, and right now it is. And what I didn't see back then, what I'm seeing now is a much greater conversation globally, is how can we make sure that Russians can stay informed and can continue to be part of this global conversation about what governments are doing, what is happening right now in Ukraine.
Oh, well, Patrick Boehler, Head of Digital Strategy for Radio Free Europe, thank you so much for all of this important work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Katie.